what is your process for staging a home?
So our process from start to finish would be if you as a realtor would call our office and have a property that's coming up in the next week or two and it needs staging. First of all, I'd like to just mention that we are focused on primarily vacant homes. So we don't do consultations and things of that nature in an occupied home. But if it is a vacant home, you would call our office and speak with either Jerry Ann or Emily, and they would take the information about the property. I would say 9 times out of 10, we can have a proposal turned around to you in just a matter of an hour or two, based on the information that you give us. And if it's been listed before, or if you have any photos, that certainly helps. But just getting the square footage and all of the parameters regarding the areas that need staging, we can get a bid turned around pretty quickly. At that point, we share our proposal with you, and if the seller decides to move forward, at that point, we can lock something in on the schedule, and we will send one of our stagers out to preview the property, take measurements, photographs, all of that. And then from there, when it gets to staging day, we always require there to be some sort of access for us. So agents, homeowners, no one needs to be there. We can let ourselves in and out. And our team, we have our own trucks and movers, and they will just bring the furniture to the property. We'll pull it at the warehouse. Everything gets delivered to the property. And then generally, if that's in the morning, the stagers might arrive an hour or two later, and they just start putting everything in place. And then we get usually to a list point at the end of that first day. And usually it's some minor things, but we do always ask for 2 days just because we stage 2 properties a day and we never know which one's gonna land first. And sometimes it just never fails. You get out there, you think you have everything you need, and the bed skirt's not in with the bedding, or we forget the legs for a dining room table. It happens almost on a daily basis. Or things aren't, heaven forbid we would get to a property and they would say it would be ready and there's painters and ladders everywhere. So sometimes we have to shift. We're good at, thinking on our feet, and most of the time we just come back the next day and put it all in place. And then at that point, we just kind of leave everything in place until the property's under contract, usually a day or two before closing. And we come back, we remove all of the inventory, we sweep and vacuum after ourselves, and then it's ready to hand over the keys.
Awesome. You said getting access to the house. Do you have a super key, or do you want them put it on a lockbox?
We have super access.
Okay, cool. Awesome. What do you consider to be the most important aspect of home staging?
I would say making sure that the furniture is of the right style and scale for the home. We see it a lot of times in a smaller house. Homeowners they love these big, oversized, comfy couches with the recliners and all that stuff, and that does not do any justice to the property. So on a smaller home, we would make sure we scale that down and use, for example, if it's a small living room and you've got one massive sofa in there and somebody walks in the door, they'll say, gosh, this house is tiny. But if you use the appropriate scaled furniture, we can literally most often fit a sofa, 2 end tables, 2 lamps, a couple of chairs, a coffee table, a rug, some pretty artwork, maybe a plant. And all of a sudden it's, we've created this space with all of the seating and it looks bigger than what it is. So, and then on the flip side, if a house is huge, we have to consider volume. If it has a 2-story great room, tall ceilings, we have to consider not only the scale lengthwise, but in height as well. So all of those factors make have a huge impact on how the staging shows at the end.
Okay. How would you handle a client's request or preferences?
We get that often, and we get the question often. And we try to do a really good job of educating them on the front end so that there aren't any disappointments or we didn't meet their expectations in the end. So we always say the way you live in your home and the way you market it for sale are 2 completely different things. So for example, if I put my house on the market tomorrow, there are things that I'm going to need to change, move around, pare down, because how I live in my house isn't how I'm going to want it to show in photographs. We always have to consider photos and how the house is going to appear in the MLS. So that's a big deal. We're marketing to the next buyer. So it's no longer my house. And I tell sellers all the time, it's, I don't have to like it. You may not like it. I may not like it, but we have to find a happy medium of a style that appeals to a broader audience. And typically we do that by keeping things really neutral. We're not going to bring in a lot of strong colors, reds or teal blues or anything that's going to distract. We want to keep the eye on the prize, which is the house itself. So we'll build it up with layers and texture and things of that nature. So we keep it very monochromatic for that reason. And I tell sellers, we have a signature style that I like to consider, or I call it like a classic contemporary. And it would be more relevant to what you would see in like Restoration Hardware or Pottery Barn.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, because I know sometimes the clients want to see their house a certain way. So
people can be they can kind of dig their heels in sometimes, but usually once we talk them through it, they get it.
Cool. What sets you apart from other staging companies?
I would say, first of all, we have an amazing staff and most of the employees have been with me for a long, long time. I have 2 nephews that work for me, and they're, my older nephew, he is my right hand. Between our staff, we have a friendly staff on the phone that really does a great job at educating and taking people through the process. Our installation team is amazing, and we have some great talented stagers on the team. But even over and above that, I would say our inventory is really what sets us apart. Sometimes, we'll see homes staged and people, maybe a smaller company might have limited inventory where we have the ability to stage just about anything. Well, I will say anything really that we see. We've never had to decline anything because we don't have that proper inventory. And I go to market once or twice a year. We're constantly getting shipments in. We keep everything up to date. And at any given time, we'll have 100 homes staged concurrently. So I think that's really what sets us apart.
Awesome.
Linda, this is Norm. Hi.
Hi, Norm. How are you?
Good. What rooms do you think, maybe I just came in late, what rooms do you think need to be staged? Not the whole house, of course, right?
Not the entire home. And I always tell people you want to get the most bang for your buck. So we're not going to go through and stage every square inch, but we're going to focus on the public spaces. Always the dining room, living room, the primary suite. And if there's a family room, a lot of times we're showing an office or den in a home because so many more people post-COVID are working from home. So we'll do that. A lot of times we will provide an option for the lower level, but we don't always recommend that if there are more than one living spaces on the main floor. So those would be the primary areas that we recommend.
Cool. I don't mean to monopolize here. What sort of prices are you talking about? Giving our agents some idea of that.
Sure. Well, first of all, I would like to say that we do give a $200 discount for all the Coldwell Banker Premier agents. And that's something that we don't do for other companies. It's kind of a special package that we arranged with you guys, Norm, when we met a couple, 2-3 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that right off the bat, you can tell your sellers that, if they called us on their own, they wouldn't get that. So as far as pricing, I would say it can range. I would say our most common price is somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000. If we're doing a luxury home, it could be several thousand, but that's something maybe 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 square feet. But we can do something as around $2,000 for kind of an entry level property. So, and when you think about that, and I always try to educate sellers too that they always think of it as spending money on a house they're selling, which no one wants to do. But if it's more of an investment, you're not really spending money, it's an investment that's going to bring a bigger return.
I have seen some of the houses that you stage, and you guys do a great job on it. They're really great looking.
Thank you.
So I'm going to open this up for any questions. Does anybody on the team have any questions for Linda?
I do. Hi, it's Josie.
Hi, Josie.
I know you have one of my listings staged.
We sure do.
Yeah. And you guys were great. Communication was awesome. It was during the time when it was snowing. So you let us know in advance, yeah, if you had to move things. And no, it looks great inside. But I have a question. The discount was awesome. But is there a way for sellers to pay at closing, or just like do a deposit in the beginning and then pay for the rest later?
That's an excellent question. Yes, we have options for sellers. We have an option where they can actually save money by paying upfront, but if they want to defer it to closing, we can absolutely do that. So yeah, that's a great question. A lot of times sellers are strapped because they've moved out and they're putting all this money into their new home. And sure, yeah, we try to make it as easy as possible.
Awesome, thank you.
That tool.
Excellent question, Josie. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I have a question. Linda, do you mind going over the pricing again? On this side, it was breaking up a little bit. I didn't get to hear that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So typically, I would say our starting point for staging is around $2,000 for an entry-level home. And the most common pricing we see is between $2,000 and $3,000. So that would be a house with, say, a living room, family room, dining room, kitchen, primary suite. So
Thank you.
And in all the offices, we have pamphlets and everything like that. So, and then the best way to get a hold of you, Linda, is just call in.
Yeah, call, text. We're on the socials. You can hit us up from any direction.
Yep. And guys, I think this is a great tool that you guys can use, because I notice a lot more sellers are buying first and they're moving out and then they're listing their house. So the house is now vacant. So it's nice to have that staging. I know I've been showing houses to my daughter, and sometimes we walk in a vacant house, my daughter can't see the actual vision of that house, where like we went in yesterday, it was a cute little older home, but whoever staged it did a pretty decent job. So just a thought process and it's another tool in your belt when you go talk to that seller and you're doing your listing presentation.
Bill, can I ask one more question? I'm sorry.
Sure.
I know we're over time.
You are.
Linda, so should a buyer want to purchase the items that are in the property when they're seeing the property? Is that an option as well? And how does that work? And can they pay for that at closing as well?
Sure. And the answer is sometimes. A lot of times, and we get the question a lot. And many times we'll sell the whole house full of furniture. We'll just leave it, and we always say, just reach out to us via email on what they're interested in, and we can tell you yes or no. We can sell that inventory. And if not, our team is really great about giving them other options. We can say, that's kind of a piece that we have to hold onto, but you might check here or here, and we'll send them some links. So.
Perfect.
Well, Linda, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you. And everybody, our 15 minutes are over. So if you have any more questions, you can email to me, or I can send out Linda's email to everyone too. So Linda, again, thank you very much.
Sounds great. Thanks. Have a great day, you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Linda.
Bye.